Hey everyone, welcome to another Let's Talk Business with me, Suzette. Today, every day, well, every Wednesday, we have really great lives. Tonight we're featuring the tech effect, Mr. Kareem Perez. We're going to be talking about digital marketing. We are now living in a digital world. So we're going to be talking all things marketing tonight. I'm going to bring him in. Hey,
Yo,
how's it going?
well, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah, I can hear you fine. I like that little African you got going there.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, so how's everything going?
Everything is going really good. Thank you.
Good. Good as it can be in this lovely time that we're in.
Yeah, exactly. How are you?
Yeah,
How's everything going with you?
good. I'm much better. I'm back at 100%, so got right back into work and like like nothing ever happened. So I'm trying to pace myself this time around, but everything's going great though. Thanks for asking.
Cool,
All
cool.
right, so we're gonna get started. I'd like you to introduce yourself and your business and what it is that you do. Everyone, Green Parrots.
Yeah, so I'm Cream Perez. I have 10 years experience in the digital marketing space. So anything from like building digital marketing strategies to websites,
Mhm.
advertising online, social media. So really like a full service presence to make sure that whatever you need to drive customers and drive business towards your brand, whether it's a personal brand or a corporate brand.
Mhm.
I have experience doing it all. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's a little bit.
Here.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So just quickly, you mentioned social media. Like, what do you like? What have you done on social media? Do you like post for people's accounts, or do you kind of give people ideas as to what to post for the business?
Yeah, so I work for two digital marketing agencies.
Hmm.
So when I was working there, I ran like a bunch of education accounts, like different schools. So like Queen's University, Ryerson University were my client. So we did like a lot of social media strategies for them.
Hmm.
And now, yeah, I do a lot of consultation. So I kind of like show people how to bring their brand to life, what to do online. I help them like demystify the online space, basically.
Yeah.
And depending on where they're at, yeah, I like to have some involvement, but I also like to teach people how to do it on their own, so that way they can be self-sufficient and they can be
Yeah.
like actually they can be more authentic and closer to their customers.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it yourself, you're more involved and you're like closer to the actual
100%. Yeah.
people using your products and stuff. So
Yeah. No, that's great. It's there's a science to it. A lot of people think that social media is just like it's annoying, it's this and that, but there's a whole science to running social media, and if you know how to do it properly, you
right.
can maximize your audience, your brand, your sales. So it's really good to teach people that. So, all right. So today we're going to be talking about digital marketing. So we're going to scale it down to some basics here, just in case somebody may not know what digital marketing is. Okay. So we kind of did an intro. So maybe just compare the two between traditional marketing and digital marketing.
Yeah, no doubt. So traditional marketing is going to be, your more traditional channels offline. So that's what we call it, offline channels. So, physical things. So like things you'll get in the newspaper, so or like direct mail. So things that come to your house, or billboards, radio, TV ads. So some more of the more like magazine ads. So
Mhm.
some more of the more offline traditional ways of reaching people.
Mhm.
So those would be, the traditional medias or the traditional advertising, and then the digital is really like that digital ad format. So
Mhm.
anything that will show up like while you're surfing online or when you're using like online platforms like email and
Mhm.
anywhere you kind of search like apps. right? So there's like app advertising and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's more of the digital side.
Okay.
And then through your also your web property, so your website, your social media
Yeah.
channel, your LinkedIn profile, anything that you know, Pinterest. There's
Mm.
actually like so many of them depending on your business and your niche.
Okay.
So for example, like Etsy is a good example for like homemade
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, so in the digital space, helping people understand what are the options and
Hmm.
then what options work best for them and their customers and what they're trying to build.
Okay, cool. So, guys, if in case you didn't know the difference between digital marketing, I think most people, because we're in a digital era now, just want to clarify the difference between the two.
Yeah,
So,
so
hmm,
actually I'll add on, right?
yeah.
So the one of the biggest differences is that with digital, you can actually see a lot of the information um, real time. So you get a lot of real time data in terms of like who's clicking on your ads, who's clicking on your website, how much traffic you're getting. You basically know exactly how many people are seeing your brand
Hmm.
if you have your data set up right. Whereas
Hmm.
with traditional, you can't really see that, right? So you have an ad on the radio, you can't really tell how many people are actually hearing
Yeah.
your spot. Or if you have a billboard, yes, a lot of people are driving by, but you can't really quantify like, okay, this many people saw it.
Yeah.
So on the digital side, you have a lot more control over your data, which you can use to segment and target your business and target your audience and things like that.
Oh, perfect. Well, that's why I was gonna just ask you, what are some of the key differences between the two?
Yeah.
So that's a really big one is tracking analytics, right? It's something that's available to you right away with digital versus, if you pay for a billboard or I did a workshop for realtors and I was kind of outlining the differences and said, well, if you're advertising traditionally a bus stop, one, you're kind of restricted to the location because you're only people in that area. And
Right.
really, that's, if you're targeting that area for sure, but then it's just that one area, like one specific street that you're advertising on. Versus online, you have a much larger reach. So, what are some other pros and cons to digital versus traditional? That's a really big one.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really not a matter of pros and cons. It's just a matter of budget, right? So like
Mm,
we always say that you don't have, no client has an unlimited budget. So
yeah.
it's really about like choosing the channels that work best for you. And,
Hmm.
and what I would say is things to be cautious of.
Hmm.
The biggest thing to be cautious of is depending too much on digital. So
Mm,
a lot of people they default to say, okay, everybody's doing digital, so I have to do like email marketing or social media, or I have to make a website,
hmm.
and they go really hard on digital. But there's a lot of offline, not necessarily advertising, but just like offline initiatives you can do to grow your business. It's not just like put information online digitally. It's like, okay, what happens when you actually get that customer, and what's your like customer service experience like, and your email retention campaigns, and how are you retaining customers and like educating them versus
Hmm.
just like marketing to them. So
Hmm.
offline, so through offline, you can do that, right? Like you can send customers like little packages. You can send out little gift things in the mail. You can do like emails and stuff like that a little bit more offline without not necessarily like putting all your eggs in just digital only.
The one basket, yeah, for sure. I think now with digital, because that this is the era we're living in, people are becoming so numb to it. So like you see an ad, you automatically click it, close, close. So you're not even really looking at it. Your email box has filters. If it doesn't have filters, I have about 12 different emails. I don't know why. I just never stop using them. They all have different purposes. Okay, I really have four, but um, but one of them is like my junk. So if I know that someone's asked me for like it's a business, so I have a personal business account. So it's not for my business, but a personal business account like for my e-bills and anything that I want to do that's personal but business related. That's the account. For the friends that want to forward me nonsense, they get a different account. Guys, it's true. That's why I don't respond to your emails.
Right,
Um,
right.
and then I have my business account. So like I filter out. just by my emails alone, different types of emails. I'm so tired of being bombarded with this is on
Right.
sale and look at this and blah blah blah. So it's important to still maintain a personal connection with your client, especially after you made that first connection online. And I think a lot of businesses fall short there because then they want to email you, they don't pick up the phone to call you. And so
Right.
even though someone may have showed interest, like for example, if you're going to kind of talk about realtors, because I have a couple of clients, and it's very challenging for them because they say, well, we're getting the traffic, but then we're not retaining. And I said, well, how are you connecting with them? Oh, I sent an email, I sent a text, and meanwhile, I get why it's indirect because sometimes some people don't like the direct connection, but at the same time, you can't get rid of it completely because they might just fall off and become numb to you. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's again, it's more about so you said something interesting, right? It's less about what you do and it's more about what your customer needs.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, if especially in real estate, and I worked actually Canadian Real Estate Association was
I
my
saw
client
that.
for
Yeah,
3 years. Yeah. So
yeah.
I worked for them. I worked for them for so long that they actually told me they're like, Creed, you might as well just get your real estate license because
Wow.
yeah, because if you really want to understand, because I had so many questions and we talked about,
Yeah.
and it was like 3 or 4 years ago when there was like a big boom in terms of real estate in Vancouver,
Mhm.
Toronto. It's pretty interesting, but again, it goes back to I work with a lot of real estate companies, and then it's a heavily referral based business, right? So like
Mhm.
you can put yourself out there on social media, but nobody's gonna like click on social media and then buy a house right away, like just like that. They need
Yeah.
to meet you. They need to figure out like who you are as a person, who you are
Yeah.
as a realtor, all of that stuff, right? So it's like digital in that case is only going to be a smaller percentage. You're going to have to do a lot
Mhm.
more conversations and relationship building,
Yeah.
right? So versus other businesses like ecom, where they don't have to actually talk to anybody, they can just do everything online. And if they don't want to have a store, they don't want to have like in-person contact, that's fine because
Mhm.
you're just buying a product, right? So
Yeah. It's an open close transaction. Yeah. So I think that's a very important, guys. It's something to really note that depending on your business, that you can't rid of the personal connection and the personal marketing, right? The traditional way of marketing. So that's something that you have to consider depending on the industry, depending on your client's needs, depending on your goals. What's your goal? If you're trying to do brand awareness, right? Perhaps maybe it may end at digital, but then what's the point of doing brand awareness if you don't have a call to action if you're trying to get sales, right? So it's all part and parcel in terms of like figuring out what your niche is. So now we're going to talk about your business because now we're going to segue into that. Because now, if in case you don't know how to do that, if you're having some issues with marketing yourself, marketing your business, he's the person you want to talk to. Dream here,
yeah,
okay? Tech
100%.
effect.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So let's talk about tech effect, some of the services. You did mention some earlier, but what are some of your key services that you offer to businesses and programs?
Yeah, so really it's around like digital consultation, right? So that's the first thing, basically helping you understand, do you have all the pieces you need to start marketing, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times marketing is just like the outlet,
Hmm.
but there's a whole like brand story and communication plan and like targeting strategy that you need to have in place
Hmm.
before you start putting your message out there.
Yeah.
So like yeah, brand consultation around like making sure you have the right brand assets for digital, the right brand story to go into like the communication on the different channels,
Hmm.
and understanding what are the different platforms you're going to use to drive your system, right? So like, what's your email platform going to be? What's your website going to be? And it doesn't have to be like a full blown website, but what's your landing page or where
Mm-hmm.
start off? And then when they contact you, what are you going to do next? And what are the services you're going to offer? So, it's going to be hard for me to market unless you have those things in place.
Hmm.
So I'll do like a strategy consultation. That's like the biggest part. And then from there, it's a matter of, okay, here's the recommendations. And
Hmm.
it's up to, it's a conversation between the client and the team to determine like who's going to do what. Right. So like another part is even if I say, for example, do the marketing. So if I do social media or SEO or something like that in terms of building the brand,
Mm-hmm.
the client always has to still be involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Of
that's
course.
another thing. It's like it's not like you just hand the keys to somebody else and say, "Hey, do my marketing." It's like
Yeah.
no, you have to be involved in the content creation, the ideas. If you have new products or new sales happening, you have to be very active in the planning and the strategy as well.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, it's around like social media management, right? So content creation, copywriting, web design, and social media. Sorry, not social media, SEO, right, for
Mm-hmm.
your websites, and then advertising. So you have Facebook ads and Google ads and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So it's usually a combination of those services. And what
Mm-hmm.
it is, it's like a holistic approach that will get you customers, right? So again, if you're a real estate agent, I'm going to tell you to do a different combination of things. If you're an e-commerce client, I tell you a different combination of things. So it's like what combination works best to drive the final result you want, which is again back to business planning. It's like how much leads do you want? How many customers do you need to make this profitable?
Mm-hmm. Well, you said a number of things. I was trying to write them down too.
Sorry, yeah,
To
I went off.
remember.
I went off. Yeah,
So the first thing you mentioned was a digital consultation. I really like that because a lot of times in business, people think that, okay, I need a Instagram, I need a Pinterest, I need a TikTok, I need LinkedIn. And you said some very key things there. It depends on what your business needs are, what your clients are going to be found, depending on what your goals are, and then you market yourself on those platforms. A lot of times I see people say, oh, I'm so exhausted with posting. I'm tired of this. I'm like, well, why are you posting on 5 different platforms? And they're posting 5 different things? Well, you're overexerting yourself. Of course, that would be exhausting. Instagram alone is exhausting if you try to keep up with
it
the
is.
analytics on itself. Trust me, I know. So I think it all depends on, knowing which platforms works best for your business, dependent on where your business is, where your clients are going to be found, and then what type of marketing you want to do and what's your goal. Are you trying to, again, brand awareness, convert sales? Are you trying to increase followers? Or that's not really a goal. People think that is, but that's not really a goal. But anyways,
Yeah.
so I think that's really important to have that consultation.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, and I was gonna say too the other part, right? So two major things I always like to talk about. The first is like the goalpost, right? So in 2 months from now, 3 months from now, you're gonna be like, "Yo, Cream, this either worked or it didn't work." So how are we gonna actually judge that,
Mhm.
right? So how are you gonna judge to see like what is success for your business online? Like you said,
Mhm.
some people say, "Hey, I got followers, I'm good." But
Mhm.
really the businesses and brands that I work with, they want like they want leads or they want like an actual call to action or some type of business to come through. So it's about being realistic about like that business journey, right? Because when I turn on these ads and I start doing your social media, it's not going to be like your viral
Yeah.
big channels and everything like that. It takes time to build up, right? And people have to understand who you are as a brand, and they have to get to know you and everything like that. And then you start to build up the leads and everything. So it's about setting the expectations, right? And having that alignment in terms of the goals and like how long it takes and what the expectations are. So
Yeah. A lot of times people will say to me, I want to increase my followers. And I say, okay, why? I'm like, well, because I want more followers. Well, are you trying to gain population, popularity
right.
contest, or are you trying to convert? That's the two very different things because you don't necessarily need a big following to have conversion. There's some people who have a large number of followers and they're not converting, right? So that's really what you have to look at and say, okay, well, what's your content look at? Now you're going into social media content and you're looking at something even deeper to say, well, if you have X amount of followers, but your conversion is low, well, what is it that we can change, right? So there's so many aspects to marketing that people just think that, okay, I've made a post and nobody replied.
Yeah.
Nobody liked it. I'm like, likes don't matter. Did they
Okay.
share it? Did they save it?
And the other thing too is right, like so this is really interesting, right? So like if you there's um for websites it's called search engine optimization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you optimize your website and there's like a certain series of changes and things you have to do in order to show up at the top of Google searches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I started in when I started in the industry and I worked on a lot of campaigns.
Mhm.
And there's like a whole system and formula that when you get to that, like, say, for example, after 3 months of doing this formula,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden your website is at the top, right? So
Mhm.
it's the same thing with social media where when you first start posting stuff, it's not like you're gonna show up at the top right away,
Yeah.
but if you're consistent and you keep that like consistency and that value and that education and you
Mhm.
know you keep that target in terms of what you're trying to accomplish of reaching your target audience, then after a while the algorithm of the social media starts to boost your
Run itself, yeah.
right. So it's like all of a sudden you'll go from like getting 2 or 3 followers a day to like, you know, on day 40, for example, now
Mhm.
you're getting like 20 followers a day because you're in the explore page way more and you're
Yeah.
showing up in people's feeds way more. So there's like a whole algorithm to it as well.
Science, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was posting day and night before I got sick, like my algorithm was crazy. People were like screenshotting, look, you're on my
Yeah,
feed,
you're always in
and
my feed. You
yeah,
always in my feed. Yeah.
it's funny because I didn't know. I kept doing it just to kind of keep up. I know I've heard it's supposed to, but then when I got sick and I was off for 3 weeks, like everything went down. It's like I'm starting from like scratch, like I never existed.
Right, right,
So
right.
but I mean, obviously that was an unfortunate scenario. But algorithm is a big thing now. I'm making posts. I'm like, no one's even viewing my posts now. And I
Right.
have to build it back up, that momentum. So,
And you know what though? I'll say something else too, right? It's like because last year we did a bunch of lives too. I think we did like 20 lives or something like
mhm,
that. And we did like a bunch of videos. We did a whole bunch of content on our Tech Effect
mhm,
page. So, you know, go follow us on the Tech Effect and check out some of our content around digital marketing and careers and building your business.
mhm,
But basically, another thing too is that it all adds to your portfolio or your online brand
mhm,
so that when somebody does find you, right? So you might not be getting a lot of you might not be getting a lot of views or leads at the start,
mhm,
but maybe 2, 3 months later, if you made 10 videos and you have a lot of good information, when somebody finds
mhm,
you, they actually go back and watch all of your videos from before, right? So like when I find somebody that I really like, or if I'm like really interested in what they do, I scroll
mhm,
through their feed and I'm like, oh, okay, they have like, you know, they've been talking about social media for a while. They got like 10 different reels. They're funny. Oh, this is kind of cool. So you go back into their previous content that they created and
mhm.
it works that way too. So don't get discouraged if you start off and nobody's really like hitting you up because
Yeah,
after you get like 10, 15 videos, when somebody sees that, they're like, oh, it's like a Netflix show, right? Like you see a Netflix
yeah,
show, you're like, oh, I'm gonna binge 3 seasons. Yo, I didn't know
yeah,
this thing was happening so many things. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna go back and watch it all, you know?
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. We have a few questions here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, hold on. So one of them, Anita was asking, hold
Good
on.
luck.
What's the secret SEO formula?
Oh, that's a good
That's a
question.
deep question. That's a consultation question, Anita.
It is, but I'll spit out like a quick high level, right? So again, content is key.
Mhm,
So the idea is this, right? The more higher quality value content you can provide, you'll show up higher. So, for example, you know, if we're both selling, let's say, tripods, right? Like I got this on a tripod right here.
mhm,
So you have your page that says like tripod, you know, 299 or whatever, just like
mhm,
a basic page. And then my page is like, oh, the tripod can do this. The tripod is good for these situations. It's this weight. It's this size. You know, tripods were invented in 1992 or whatever. Like that whole
mhm,
history. So Google will say, oh, this page has way more information. It has videos. It
mhm,
has more content. So it'll show you at the top. So that's one thing, content. The second thing is keywords, right?
mhm,
So when you have to understand what your keywords are and what people are searching for, and
mhm.
you have to have that in your content as well. And then, yeah, the third thing is just, yeah, hit me up, right? We'll talk. I got you, no doubt.
I love that.
Yeah, that's number three every time right now.
That's number three.
Yeah.
All right, so that's perfect. Okay, another question. So if you post daily, is it guaranteed that you will get into the algorithm?
Yeah, so I would say yes, right? So okay, no guarantees, but what I would say is you have to think about what posts are being promoted to the top of the algorithm. The type of post, so the type of post like reels are, I would say that would be the number one. So if you posted
Mhm.
reels daily, then I would say like, yeah, you would definitely get into algorithms that other people are, of people that are not in your network right now.
Mhm.
Um, and then, yeah, reels. And then, yeah, I'm gonna just go with reels.
Yeah. You know, with the reels, I found that you can get a lot of views, especially if you have the music. You get a lot of views, but it doesn't necessarily convert. Even when you have a call to action, because I was doing that for quite some months, and it was really exhausting. But
Right.
I get in the views, but then I wasn't really getting the conversion that I wanted from the reels. So I don't, but I also know I have a friend, and every time she posted a reel, she's guaranteed 2 to 3 sales. So again, maybe it just kind of goes back to the service and the product that you're offering as a business. So I just found that it wasn't really necessarily working for me in reels specifically. So I kind of like, you know what, all this dancing and TikToking, I'm gonna slow it down for a bit because I'm not young.
Right. Yeah, and carousels are really good too.
Oh yeah,
Right? So
yeah,
yeah, the carousels actually, when you post multiple
yeah.
carousels, then it shows like each one. So if you have like 3 slides, it will show the first one,
Mhm.
and if nobody kind of show, like depending on what happens, they'll show the second one to the same person. Um,
Mhm.
to try to see if they like the second image better than the first. So reels and carousels, but again, I think that yeah, the conversion part is more around. It's like the longevity, like you
Yeah.
know, people they like the reels,
Mhm.
but they're more in like entertainment mode,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Versus other content or other situations where they might be more closer ready to buy. So
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed my carousels do a lot better on my insights versus the reels. I just noticed that in terms of a conversion wise. Um, okay, so another thing you had mentioned. Oh, no, we talked about that already. Okay, so now let's talk about your diversity in digital. So that happened recently. Congratulations on that. It went really
that
well.
was big. It
Um,
was big.
Yeah, so so tell us like what that was, the digital diversity in digital and summit. Kind of talk to us about that and
Yeah.
about
So
that.
what it was is it was an online conference,
Mhm.
right? So we wanted to do it in person, which kind of got locked down. That was like another part of the story.
Mhm.
That whole like lockdown thing happened while we were planning it.
Okay.
But ultimately, it was in partnership with Artscape, and we had fireside chats there. We had workshops, and we had a business expo with multiple businesses.
Nice.
The idea behind it was to talk about diversifying the digital space, right? So marketing and advertising, and talk about like um, getting more diverse talent into these companies. So we had 2 fireside chats. Stephanie Small from Black Taxi.
Okay.
She started Black Taxi. So she went into taxi and started like a whole Black internship division where
Oh,
they
nice.
like hire like 5 Black interns every year. So we talked a little bit about, yeah, we talked about a bunch of things there. We actually have it on our YouTube if you want to check it out.
Perfect.
Yeah, we had Danica Nelson. So she's from Shopify, and we talked about, and she mentors at Humber, and she worked at TELUS doing like a lot of diversity and inclusion work while she was there. So we just talked about the industry, how to find a mentor, how to break through, what are some of the top skills you need to break into the digital market, and how to like advocate for yourself when you get into
Mhm.
companies, right? So like, what are some of the secrets, or what are some of the things that you might not know or they don't tell you? We
Mhm.
just talked a lot about like finding a mentor and really finding that guidance that can get you into your career, right? So fast track your career within the marketing space. And then we had 4 workshops. So we had 2 workshops about building your freelance career. So we had Jasmine Williams. She's an amazing content creator. Her social media is really dope.
Mhm.
And then we had Ryan Hinkson, right? So Eat Famous. He talked about growing his IG account. He has like over 200,000 followers.
Oh,
And then we had like a career division as well. So Ilya Francis talked about LinkedIn, how to build your profile there. And then Reggie Waterman, he talked about building your personal brand to get like careers and everything. So yeah, it was amazing.
wow.
Yeah, it was packed
Huge.
full. We had like over 75 people there, and
Wow.
yeah, it was jam packed. And then we also, oh, yo, shout out to Malcolm's Choice, right? Because
Mhm.
Jody helped us to run the business expo, and we had
Nice.
like 15 different businesses there. So we had like agencies, and we had different brands that were offering social media audits and offering job opportunities. It was dope. It was dope.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then also too, last shout out to the biz mixer Carlina,
Hmm.
because she actually helped me plan it all.
Hmm.
So it was like a dope online experience, which is going to be like an annual thing,
Oh,
and
nice.
really the whole purpose is to get talent that's looking to get into the industry and connect them directly with opportunities. So whether that's like training or mentorship or jobs with agencies that are looking for diverse talent, and things like that.
That's
So yeah,
amazing. No,
yeah,
this was your first one? This was the first one
it
that
was
you
the
did?
first one. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. And you have over 75 people and all those heavy hitters on the platform. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It was
That's what's really what I really like about your business is that you provide mentorship and guidance to people. 'Cause a lot of times, especially students, they finish school and school teaches you the facts. This is
right.
how you market to people. They don't teach you the how. They
Yeah,
don't give you actual skills, right? So a lot of times, even like when I finished school and coming out of it, I was like, okay, what do I do now? So they don't teach you how to get yourself out there, how to connect with jobs, how to interview, how to ask the right questions, how to market yourself. Because even, taking marketing, you need to know how to market yourself,
right,
right?
right.
It's one thing to market a product or a service, it's another thing to market yourself, right? So I really love that your business definitely highlights that and is very supportive because that's a huge need, especially with young people, because they don't know where to go or what to do. They know what they're doing, they don't know how to go about doing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
yeah.
they just need like everybody needs somebody in their corner, right?
Yeah.
That's really like the key is like, we all need, and I know that even when I see you working with your clients, it's like that's what you do. You're there for them when they're doing their brands and they're
Yeah.
building. Like, yo, you hype them up. Like, yo, you could do this. You
Yeah.
could, you
Yeah.
know, bring your A game, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with students, where it's like sometimes they just need somebody to be like, hey, here's a campaign. Like, just you can do it. Like, run it, put your marketing ideas to the test. So yeah, mentorship is huge, and it's really like the core of what we do.
Yeah. So maybe talk to me a little bit more about the mentorship program. Is that like ongoing or is it like once you sign up for part of the year or how does the mentorship program work?
Yeah, so it's 8-week program, and it's coming up again in July. So we're gonna start accepting applications in the next couple weeks. But essentially, it's okay. So what you talked about is you having the theory but not the actual practical experience.
Hmm.
So coming out of school, or even not necessarily just out of school, but with digital transformation, there's a lot of jobs going digital now.
Hmm.
A lot of and with the whole like shift and everything that's happening, there's a lot of people that are changing careers and transitioning into digital, or their careers are becoming digital. So
Hmm.
that's also like a big part of it. But essentially, there's mainly three things. So the first thing is access to the network, right?
Hmm. Hmm. You
They
have to
say
connect.
like 70 to 80% of jobs are not posted, and
Yeah.
the whole stats there. So the
And
biggest
sometimes
thing,
when they post it, they already have who they have in mind. They just posted it for the sake of posting it to
exactly.
people out the
That's
community. Yeah.
yeah, that's like a whole nother, like that's like a big target on our wall for like the next quarter and thing, right? Like to just to go through that whole like system. But yeah, so anyways, access to the network. So working in digital and being in the space and building the community, we have like tons of speakers and agency owners and senior marketers that are all part of our network that are open to mentoring or providing opportunities, or basically like just being in the know. So access to the network. So that's one of the biggest things that is part of it. The second part is hands-on experience. So we have clients and brands that are part of our ecosystem that you can actually work on campaigns, and then also the tech effect as well. So we have our social media, our blog. We let people gain experience through running campaigns and actually having um, hands-on
Experience.
application of what they learned, right? So again, when you go to get the job, right, this is what I always ask people. I say, hey, do you know how to do this? They're like, oh yeah, I know Canva, I know MailChimp, I know like SEO, social media. And I say, okay, but how do you ran a campaign? Like if I had a website and I gave it to you and I came back a week later, would you be able to do it? So it's like, no, I wouldn't really know the exact steps. So that's what we teach them. It's like you have this theory, but this is what it actually looks like when you do it for a client. And they could put that on their resume too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that fills the gap in terms of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing is the coaching and personal development. So how to brand yourself, how to package yourself, how to package your experience, and really reverse the mindset of trying to get a job versus attracting an opportunity, right? So like, okay, you're trying to go through this resume system and send your resume and do an interview and whatever, but it's like, there's people doing like TikTok videos with their resume and they're getting like 20 calls a day, or like there's other ways to do like DMs or Clubhouse. There's like a lot of different ways to brand yourself to become like attractive as a talent. So that's like the other part too, which is how do you create your own unique like your own unique niche and your own unique selling points for your personal brand, so that when people see you, they're like, okay, yo, this guy's always talking about Facebook advertising, and we need somebody that does that. So, like, obviously, we're gonna hire him. Like we're not gonna. So that part too, like not waiting, but really putting yourself out there, branding.
Visual marketing yourself.
Yeah, you might as well, right? And what it's also too like the way I see it is like this, right? You're on this tightrope walking, okay? And you can pick any side. One side is freelancing and the other side is a career, right? So you're always building up your skills and you're always staying active, so that if somebody came to you and they're like, hey, can you do social media management or marketing? You're like, yeah, I can do that for you, like as a freelancer, right? But if you also have a job that's social media that fits what you're interested in, then you can go full time as well. Because as you know, the job market is, people are not staying at jobs for 10, 20 years like they used to, right? And you have to have diversification, 7 different incomes, all that type of stuff. Right? It's about that type of mindset where build your skill value, so that whether it's through a job or through freelance, you're able to earn, attract opportunities and earn money, right?
Guys, you hear that? Did you hear that? You attract the opportunity. You don't seek it. You attract it, and then you make yourself marketable so that people can find you. I think for people like in our generation, it's a huge change. I remember the last job I was applying for, and I was going through. I had to first of all, I had to dig through my 4 different emails to find where my resume was. And then I'm like, what's the style? And my niece, she's 10 years younger than me, and she came. She goes, what's that archaic resume? And I go, what? Nobody does that anymore. I go, really? And then she did this whole pretty thing. I'm like, no, we can't have color. You put a picture on your resume? No, we can't. And even that in itself, and that was a few years ago, and now it's moved past that now to something even different now. Paperless.
Yeah, and then here's the thing, right? Because I work with a lot of students, so I actually review a lot of we take on interns, so we do the interview process every semester. And we work with a lot of just students coming out of school, and the traditional way of assessing a talent, right, on paper is like it's broken. You know what I'm saying? Like they come to you look at their resume. You're gonna doctor your resume and all that stuff, right? So they already know what keywords to put, so you interview them. the interview is like scripted questions, so that like
Mm-hmm.
they already know the answer and everything, and it's kind of like an act, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, but I like to get a vibe from people, like, yo, what do you like? What are some of the things you're interested in? What type of
Mm-hmm.
work ethic do you have? And there's like different ways to assess like if this person is a good fit to work with,
Yeah.
right? So one of the ideas is like video interviews, right? So
Mm-hmm.
instead of you sending me a resume, it's like just send me a video that answers 5 questions, like why you want to work for us, tell me about your skills, right? And I can like look at that, and then that tells me more and helps me to slim down that process.
Hey.
Yeah, the other thing is, right, there's a group, or like I heard there's a group on Clubhouse,
Mm-hmm.
right? They bring executives from the tech world, and then people come on stage and they pitch themselves like a job interview. So it's like you might have somebody from Facebook hiring, whatever, a couple of tech companies hiring, and then I might come on and be like, hey, I have 5 years experience in the agency. I can do media buying. I can do social media. I live in Toronto. I'm looking for a job or whatever. And then these people are now like, oh, okay, what's your Instagram? What's your LinkedIn? They look at your
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. They're like, oh, I can see your experience, whatever. Let's have an interview. You know what I mean? Right. So
Really.
you skip that whole process of like, again, right. And even, yeah. And then the last thing too is, even like we said, the job postings is like, some companies, they don't even really know what they're posting for, because they're like, they don't know
Mm-hmm.
social media or marketing either, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're like, hey, Kareem, we need to hire a social media person, but we don't even know what this
Mm-hmm.
stuff is, right? So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
half the time you just have to go in there and be like, hey guys, look, this is your company, this is what you guys are doing, I do the marketing, I can help you. So you can even pitch to businesses, digital transformation or your skills,
Wow.
well, because they wouldn't even know what they're missing out on, right? Like,
Yeah.
and how to use it and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, if you look back even maybe like 10, 15 years ago, there would never be a position for social media. Like, so
right,
no companies
right,
were hiring that. So you're right. A lot of companies, it's a shift for a lot of older heads, if you want to say,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
aren't used to that. Used to the traditional thing. I'm part of that group now, apparently, because I didn't know half of these things.
Okay,
But it does make a difference. I was thinking of last year, I was looking to buy a home, and I made a post, and this is something kind of off topic, but kind of relatable to what you're saying with the video. And I was looking to purchase a home, and I went into the Black community group, and I posted, "Hey, looking for a realtor." I kid you not, probably about 50 responses within the 10 minutes. I had to turn off the comments. So most people responded, "Hey, I'm a realtor, DM me, DM me, DM me." One realtor, and I did a live with him, Ken Toppin, he slid into my DMs and sent me a video. And he's like, "Hey, Suzette." So when I opened it, he's like, "Hey, Suzette, hi, I'm looking for a
right, right.
home." I was like, oh, at first I was like, okay, it's kind of intrusive, but at the same time, he stuck out of the 50 other realtors, right? So I get the whole video thing, because you can put down anything on paper, but if you can look great on paper, but then if you meet the person and then they're not a good fit personality wise or everything else wise, it may not be a fit. I mean, you don't put down personality on an interview, right? Not an interview, but on a job posting, right? So
Right.
I definitely understand the whole aspect of the video thing. Again, a huge shift, because before you would have to do up your resume, send it in, wait, put in
Right.
keywords, and then and then get the phone call, then you go in. Now all of that, like you said, it's like you're creating your own opportunity. And if to take it one step further, if you want to work for, say, let's use Google for example. Now you have to pitch yourself to Google and make them, and have Google find you, right?
Right.
So
Right.
Google this, hashtag this,
Yeah.
SEO this,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. That's the thing, right? It's
It's a
like
lot of work. It's a lot of work.
it's a, it's
But
a, it's, it's a lot of work, right? But again, when you really be honest with what you're actually looking for,
Mhm.
it becomes very clear, right? And what happens is now, okay, even when we talked about social media, and somebody asked about the algorithm of like showing up every day. Are you gonna be part of the algorithm, right? Like
Mhm.
half of the algorithm is comments, so like you don't
Mhm.
really have to post anything. You could
Mhm.
just pick, like you said, if I want to work for an agency, I'm like, okay, you know what, let me go on Taxi's page, Let me go on John Street's page. Let me go on Costa. Let me go to the top 5, 10 agencies in Toronto.
Mhm.
And let me just like, those are going to be my follows. I'm going to see what they
Yeah.
post. I'm going to comment on there. I'm going to be like,
Mhm.
haha, boom, boom, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever, whatever. So that when 2, 3 months later, right, when I see this job and I finally get this interview or whatever, it's like,
Pop
oh
into their
yeah,
mind.
you guys know me because I've been the
Yeah.
person that's like comments on your stuff, right?
Yeah.
The same thing with the same thing with business and like when you're running your business online. For me, you
Mhm.
know, when I see somebody that I like or somebody that I want to work with, the first thing I think is like, I want to hire this person, or I
Mhm.
want to like support this person. I want to be in their comments. I want to see what they're posting. I want to see what they're dealing with, And when
Mhm.
I start to like their vibe, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool. Like, I feel like I already know them. So when I talk to them and I'm like, oh, I want to retain your services, like, oh yeah, I see you in the DM. Like, we were talking, we were cool. And actually, that's how it was with BizMix or Carlina.
Mhm.
Because when we were doing events last year, we were doing a lot of virtual, and she used to come all the time, right? She just pull up in the comments, hey, this is a cool event, everything like that. So we just became cool, and she
Mhm.
does event planning, right? So like when I was thinking of planning my event, I'm like, yo, I gotta call Carlina. Like she
Yeah.
was always writing for us when we were doing our
Yeah.
stuff, right? So it's not like just show up and be like, hey, can you buy my thing? It's like, no, maybe you follow somebody, like if you do skincare, maybe you follow somebody's journey. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, I see you using this. Oh, maybe you should try that.
Yeah.
Then when you're like, hey, here's my products, they're like, oh, yeah, you're the person that was helping me
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
time or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So,
Planting that seed. You don't just plant the seed and leave it there to grow. You have to plant it. You have to put fresh soil on it. You have to
yeah.
water it. You have to put in sunlight. You have to do this. Like it's about building that relationship, building that rapport, and then maintaining it and being in not annoying, stalkerish, but being enough. If you comment, a couple of days in a row, maybe just like a couple of times, and then another comment, or if it's a story, send something. It's just enough to kind of be in that person's face, build that relationship, and it's funny because every time I tell a story, I feel like a little a little celebrity. So 3 times actually, I was in different stores. Two were in Mississauga and one was in Ajax. And I walked in. The recent one was the hair store in Ajax. And I walked in, and this girl's like, "Hey, Sue." And I was like, "Hey." I didn't know her. I had no
Yeah.
idea who she was. And she's like, "How you doing?" She's talking to me. I'm talking back to her. And I was like, I have no idea who you are. And she goes, "Oh my God, of course you wouldn't know." She goes, "I follow you and I watch your videos every day. I just feel like we're friends." And
Right.
this is somebody who I've never met before. But even for me and my delivery, that's my whole purpose, right? Like I talk to people like I'm speaking to one of my friends from 19 how long, right? So it goes both ways in terms of how you're marketing yourself. You're marketing yourself for a business, and I'm marketing myself for a business as well for clients. But even if you're marketing yourself to get a job, it works both ways, right? So you have to make yourself likable. You have to have valuable content. You have to engage, and engagement is not just on your page, like you said. It's on the other person or other business's account that you want to engage and let them know it's you, right? So
Yeah.
there's
And you know what? And the other thing is too, Danica mentioned this too, right? Like when we had our conversation. And again, it's on YouTube. It's super dope. But it's also you learn a lot, right? So like one of the things is when you're approaching somebody, you don't want to be like, oh, hey, so are you guys hiring? Like, you guys have any jobs? It's like, okay, but did you check like our website? Did you check my whole
yeah,
portfolio or whatever? So you also need time to like understand and do your research and do your knowledge to say like, is this the type of place I want to work, or is this the type of people
hmm
that I want to be around? So that also gives you kind of like a flip side where it's like a two-way street, right? It's like you want to work for them, but also they need you. So it's not just
exactly, yeah,
not just you like trying to show them like, hey, this is what I can do. It's more like,
Mhm.
okay, no, but what you guys got, like,
Yeah,
how you guys treat your people, how do you guys deal with your operation? And it's like, okay, if we can do this thing where it's like it makes sense, then we can meet
yeah,
um, together. So it's more about like quality part,
Mhm.
trying to find that high quality experience and relationship, whether it's
That's it, yeah.
yeah, business or career.
And once you build that relationship with somebody too, and you have that personality, that connection with them, even if you don't have like, the on paper skills, they're more willing to train you because they already feel like your friends, you have that relationship, you know what, I can work with you, right? Versus somebody who has all those qualifications, but zero personality, they're not a good fit. It's just like, yeah, you're good on paper, but you're not a good fit. And people, it's a lot of things that people don't understand, even with business or jobs, everything. It goes beyond the basic need, skills that you have. It's about a fit. Like, can I work with you? You mentioned that, right? Can I work with you? Are you workable? Are you trainable? Are you going to represent the business? I was about to say family. Are you going to represent the business appropriately? All those things matter, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's great. You have a question here. So
Thanks,
from
bro.
Empire Mortgages, he's asking, does this marketing also include Facebook lead ads? So let's talk about digital ads too, right? I know we're talking about like
Yeah.
just regular SEO and stuff, but does that apply to ads on Facebook?
What, like in terms of me doing Facebook?
Um, I think at the time he had asked it earlier. I think he was asking about like some of the stuff you were talking about marketing on social media on
Yeah.
Instagram. Does that apply to Facebook, like some of the algorithms? I think if you can
Yeah.
clarify.
Okay. Yeah. 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 So again, the basically when you're doing the Facebook ads, then the algorithm is your spend, right? So like the more you okay, so the first thing is you're basically paying for each click, right? So you're putting ads up, and every time somebody clicks on one of your ads, then they come to your landing page.
Mhm.
Um, so the optimization is not necessarily in the algorithm; it's more in terms of the amount of people actually clicking and taking action on your ads. Because you want whoever's clicking to end up buying or to be very interested versus just like random people clicking and then you're wasting your money, right? So with the Facebook advertising, you have to have, again, your target area, your target audience, narrow it down to what they're interested in so that when you do put that message out there, you're getting people that will be interested in what you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers, but
Yeah, you can, if I didn't answer your question, then you can mortgages McIntyre, you can always post again. Let's talk about Instagram versus Facebook. So I get a lot of clients that they would ask me, do I have to do both, or can I do Facebook, or can I do Instagram? Again, circling back to what you said earlier, it depends on your business, depends on your goals, and it depends on where clients, how you're going to market to your clients. Facebook is more of community. So I tell people, like again, my realtor clients, I'll say, look, you can go into a community. If you're a realtor for a certain area, like say for example the Durham area or the Peel area, you can go into a group and market yourself there. Instagram is more widespread, right? So you're in a bigger sea, and it's you can eventually kind of get into a niche by your hashtags. um, but again, it's a much larger spread. So let's talk about like some of maybe you can talk about what type of businesses might do better on Facebook versus who might be better on Instagram.
yeah, that's a good question. But the yeah, okay, so Facebook, I mean, they're kind of very similar, right? Because they have like very similar algorithms. Um, but yeah, what I find is like Facebook is good for the advertising portion, and generating like leads, right? So creating like a top funnel database into your lead source. And the biggest way to do that is through remarketing and the Facebook pixel. So what happens is um, it actually works on both platforms, but basically somebody clicks on one of your ads or clicks on your website or takes some type of action,
Mm-hmm.
then the remarketing continues to show them additional ads about your business. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so it's like as soon as they take one action, it's like you got them in your sites, and then you can send them more follow up advertising. The other things I feel like Facebook Marketplace and Facebook ecom, right? So doing ecom ads on Facebook work really well as well if you can get your targeting right.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram I mean, Instagram is just like the advertising portion
Mhm.
is one of like 7 or 8 things you can do on Instagram versus on Facebook. It's like the advertising in the communities, like you said. There's not as much brand building and like interactive type of experiences and stuff. The other thing I would say too is Facebook Live is pretty good
Mhm.
if you want to broadcast live. But again, you need a community to
To
attract.
do it in. Yeah. And then Instagram is more widespread, it's a huger reach, larger reach. But it works. I think it works differently dependent on your business and what your goal is in the end. Right.
Yeah, and I would say like Instagram and Facebook are very similar. So I would probably throw in LinkedIn and TikTok into the mix because um, TikTok will be like even further in terms of brand awareness because TikTok you can like get tons of followers and engagement. That algorithm is very favorable, right? So like if
Mhm.
you post a lot of content, you'll get a lot of followers and like engagement on TikTok. It will be even more widespread in general.
Mhm.
Then you have your Instagram, which is like and the Facebook, like we just talked about. Then you have your LinkedIn, which is more targeted, but it's more business and it's more like transactional when it comes to business exchange, pretty much. So I would say
Yeah.
like if you're like more B2B, then you should be on LinkedIn, and if you're more kind of like B2C viral awareness style brand,
Mhm.
then TikTok can help you fill the funnel.
Filipino.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so like makeup brands and like um, finance brands, real estate brands, they can
Mhm.
talk a lot about what they value they add on TikTok to fill their pipeline of potential people that may be interested in the future.
Okay, perfect. And in closing, well, two things in closing. So, what is a common mistake that you see businesses make when it comes to online marketing? I think you already touched on a couple already, but
Yeah, it did. I guess I'll say this. There's when you talk about the idea of having a brick and mortar store, right? And if you think about like I think about my days, one of my first jobs was Future Shop. So I used to be like a stock boy in there, and I used to go open the doors and close the doors at the end and everything. But basically, you think about retail, right? Sometimes you go to the store and nobody's really shopping, right? But you still have to open the door, set everything up, and like stand there and like wait for somebody to come in.
yeah.
Um, so it's the same thing with businesses where some days you might be online, you might be promoting your business, you might be online doing stories or doing your content, and nobody's necessarily like, buying,
Mhm.
right? But you always have to keep opening the store, or people are not going to know you're available, right? So it's like I
Mhm.
might come on every single day, be like, hey guys, I thought, I do marketing, I do social media, I do SEO. I might do that for like 2 weeks and nobody comes in. But if I don't do that, then it doesn't give people a chance to even know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So then from there, you have your likes and your comments and your people that engage. So like even when you post stories, people that click on the stickers and stuff like that, those are the people who, when they come into the retail store, they ask you a question, right? So they're like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, do you know where the shampoo is? Right? And if you're a good salesperson, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, what kind of hair type do you have? Because
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And then you start the
Yeah.
conversation that way. So the biggest mistake that I find that business owners make is like they don't want to open the store, right? So they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't want to go online today. I have nothing to sell. I have nothing to promote. But it's like every day you gotta get in there
You
and be
just
like,
show
hey,
up.
whatever,
Yeah.
because you never know when somebody could be walking by or looking for what you do, and they show up and they say, hey, oh, I've been looking for this all this time, but I just, you weren't open or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just say like put yourself out there uh, and just sell, right? Like for me, I was thinking today it's all about economic circulation. So sometimes you're spending money and sometimes you're making money, but at the end of the day, like you have a product, you have a brand, you have to sell. Again, whether it's your brand, your product, or your business, you
Mhm.
gotta sell, or whether it's your personal career,
Mhm.
you gotta sell yourself, right? So even
For
if I'm
sure.
I'm a marketer, I'm on LinkedIn. It's like, okay, yeah, I might not be looking for a job, but I'm talking about the AI that's happening over here, or I'm talking about NFTs, or talk about digital technology that the new iPhone just dropped, or the new AirPods, because these are all things that I should know, being like in my field. So it's like you got to put that out there.
Yeah, it's branding yourself as an expert, right? So in between, I feel like I keep talking about realtors, but even for because I have a few
Yo, the
realtors.
market is hot. The market's hot right
The
now.
market's hot, man, trust me. But even with them, I say to a lot of them, don't only post just listed, just sold. Like educate people in between because then when you're showing up, like you said, every day, which puts you in the forefront of someone's mind. So even though you may not, get a direct sale, if I'm following you and I see you showing up every day and my sister wants to buy a house, I'm gonna be like, hey, go check out Kareem because he knows his stuff. So that's so important. And then the engagement in between, like you said, like if you don't have a product or a service in between to sell, well, educate your clients. Educate your clients as to why your product is needed, why your business is needed, why your services are needed in between, because then you're building that value as well as you're branding yourself as an expert. So you're not just some AI, as my son says, AI bot who's just posting.
Right, right.
You're up there. I'm a real person. Here I am. I actually know what I'm saying. I didn't copy and paste from Google some words and put it on there. I can actually speak it. I can reference it. So it makes a huge difference. And I think that, um, we we're dating ourselves. You said Future Shop. I'm like, I remember Future Shop. If you're too young to know what Future Shop is, Future Shop was the original Best Buy. Okay, Kareem just showed up his age. He said Future
Stop,
Shop.
boy.
Like,
Stop,
like
boy. Yo.
how did
Stop,
you
boy.
even know what Future Shop is?
Stop, boy. Yo. Stop, boy. Oh, man.
The digital, I feel like, a lot of the younger people, the generation under us, when they and I'm not going to bash anybody because obviously I'm not speaking to all younger generations, but the consistency, right? They try it once and look, oh, it didn't work. I see it with my niece all the time. I'm like, she applied after she got out of school. She applied for a job. It was in a video, so maybe that was the big thing there. But she applied, and oh, nobody wants to hire me. I'm like, it was one. I know I applied for like 50 jobs, and that was way back then when when there wasn't that much people out there looking for jobs. And I go, imagine now with all this madness going around, you have to push and be consistent, right? So that's one thing. Is just even though, like you said, there may not be a bite every day, you have to be consistent because you don't know when someone might bite, right? Someone might want to walk in the store and ask you a question. And then engagement, right? A lot of times people they give closed-ended answers. So, what was the example you said? Where is the whatever? And like, yeah, down that aisle. You're like, no, if somebody's a good salesperson, you can say, well, what kind of shampoo are you looking for? What's your hair type? And now you're engaging in a conversation, again, branding yourself as an expert. Key.
Okay. And this is the thing, too, right? Like, that takes time, right? So like you said, when you do that first like interview and somebody, nobody calls you back, you're like, oh, nobody's calling me back. And then somebody calls you back and you go
Mhm.
for the interview, but they don't hire you. You're like, yeah, but I did this interview. So every step of the process, you always have to be thinking like,
Yeah.
okay, what could I be doing better, right? So like for
Yeah.
me, that's why like that consultation part,
Mhm.
like that was like years in the making because when people came and they're like, oh, I need Facebook, I need Instagram, and we did it, it was like, okay, yeah, we started doing it, but we didn't really understand like the
Mhm.
buy-in as much. So every time these things happen, I'm like, okay, well, what did I miss, right? Like, what could I have done better or whatever?
Mhm.
And now it's like, oh, okay, you know what? If we knew this part, then when we got to this stage, it would be better. So it's the same thing, like with resilience. Is every time you try something new, there are gonna be some failures in there that you're gonna be
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want
Learning lessons. We say
and
learning lessons.
actually, when we did the summit, right?
Mhm.
I had a moment like that, right?
Mhm.
Because we were supposed to do pre-recorded content at Artscape,
Okay.
so it was supposed to be in person, but it was just like instead of having people there, it would just be like on stage, so like two people, like Oprah and Megan, right? When she did
Yeah.
that one, right? So that's
Yeah.
how I had it in my head.
Yeah.
So when they announced the lockdown and like all that stuff, and it was like, okay, we can't do it in person anymore. So like, okay, great. The whole point was to do it in person with the high quality content and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So then we're like, oh, okay, we'll just like live stream it.
Mhm.
Then they announced, they're like, oh, no more live streaming, right? So it was like, yeah. So at one point I was like, yo, man, this is not like what we wanted to do. Like,
Yeah.
should we just forget it? Like, does it make sense to keep going? Right. And that's why I said, you know, if it's a mentor or a team, not a team was like, nah, Kareem, like, remember, you know, you planned this for so long, just
Mhm.
put together something, like, don't worry about it. Like, it's still going to have impact. The end user is still going to see value. So
Mhm.
let's keep it going. Right. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's true, man. Like, you know,
Mhm.
I don't want to turn back. I want to keep going. So, we always have those moments where, you know, it's like when you're about to go for a workout or something, like, yeah, I don't really want to go outside right now. It's cold, you
That's
know.
me
It's like
every day.
to the
Every
gym,
day.
right? So this is like pushing through those
It's pushing
hesitations.
through. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it depends on who you're surrounded by. If you have friends, family, a team that pushes you, in times that you need, because like you said, we're all human, right? So as
yeah,
much as I get on and I'm yeah, I have my days. I'm like, I don't want to do anything today. But if you have good people around you that can support you now when you have those moments, then it makes it all the difference. And it's about figuring out what's the next thing, right? Because in this crazy world, we can't plan for tomorrow. We have no idea. Lockdown,
right.
no
Yeah,
lockdown,
right.
stay home, don't stay home. Like, everything's so crazy. So it's a matter of bouncing back and saying, okay, well, shoot, this didn't work. What's the next thing? Right. So it's like you have to have a backup plan for the backup plan for the backup plan and
Yeah,
so forth. So I totally get it, man. It's part of business, and I think that just having a thick skin is like that's like one of the key points, is just saying, like, don't get your feelings hurt if they don't call you back right away. If you don't get that first interview, if you got the third interview, they didn't hire you, look back. And I like to change my lingo, not say mistake. Look at what you could do differently. Look at what's a learning lesson. What did you learn out of that? Because
right.
if you had three interviews and three first time interviews and nobody hired you, okay, well, what is it? Like, that happened to me back when I was younger and I was applying for jobs. So my resume looked great. For some reason, I didn't interview well. As much as I talk now, I was not talkative back then. I would sit there, I clamp up because I would think about what's the answer they wanted to hear. And so I ended up going to a job agency, Randstad, and they do interviews. And so she had like a fake interview with me. And she told me all the things that I could do differently. She goes, okay, well, you need to have better eye contact. I didn't realize I was talking and like looking away. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, you need to have eye contact to like make sure that they're listening and avoid using certain words. I would say, for example, I had to do X, Y, and Z at my old job. And she's like, no, say these are my job duties. This is what I used to do, because had sounds like, and she's breaking it down for me. I was like, really? And
Right,
I kid you
right.
not, the first interview I did after that assessment I did with her, I got the job. Right. So
Oh,
it's about looking at assessing yourself and saying, okay, well, people are calling me, so they like me, they like what's on paper or in video. Where is it that I'm falling short? So there's so many things, in life that you have to learn along the way, and it's a lot. But you can always call Kareem, okay,
Yeah,
our
hit me up.
for your
Hit me
business.
up. I
He
got
does
you.
a whole bunch of things, a lot more than I even knew. But guys, especially when it comes to business, we're talking about investments, investing your time, investing in learning. It doesn't mean that by investing into marketing or having someone teach you or doing a mentorship program doesn't mean that you're not skilled. It just means that you need some assistance along the way with an area of business that you're not well versed in, right? I at one point had hired a mentor, and I needed that guidance for myself. I'm great at guiding people. When it comes to myself, I'm like, it was
Right,
hard.
right.
So everybody has their own challenges, and it's a matter of saying, okay, being real with yourself. Okay, what is it that I do well, and what is it that I need help on? Who can help me? Who is out there, and who's the one that So, guys, it's been amazing. Kareem, thank you so much.
Appreciate
So
that.
many gems. I'm trying to write down my notes so I can put it into post it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you, what's your YouTube? I want to put it in the chat on YouTube where they can watch the summit.
Yeah, it's the tech effect. The,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, the underscore tech underscore effect.
Okay, I'm gonna send them to your page.
Yeah,
So they
send
can
them to my page. Just hit up our website, join our mailing list, hit us up on our DMs, and we have clips. We actually have clips on our our page.
Mm-hmm.
from the interviews, and then we have the link in the bio. I think it should be there if it's not all. I'll rush to add it after this.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Guys, go and check him out, The Tech Effect. Mr. Kareem Perez knows so
Cool.
much about digital marketing, has lots of years experience, offers many programs, many workshops, mentorship, everything. So guys, if you need anything, shout out to Kareem. I posted in there a couple of times. So Kareem, thank you so much. Thanks for all the gems. I'm going to try and write down as much as I can. This is always the hard part for me after is the write up because I'm like, there's so much things I'm trying to write down, like chicken scratch on a piece of paper. Try and read it after. I'm like, okay. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. We had great engagement. Thank you guys, everyone that stayed in.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Sue. I look forward to working with you soon.
Of course.
You know, I need that rebrand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hit you
We'll
up.
talk.
But yeah, we'll talk. Peace out, everyone.
All
Thanks.
right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.